Thank you so much, Martin. My name is Alicia. I'm an alcoholic. Um, I I totally forgot what I was going to start with. I am sorry. I'm nervous. This is my first time sharing, so I'm going to just muddle through the best I can. I This is my home group, although I do consider my New Hampshire groups that I attend regularly also my home groups. My sponsor is, I have a sponsor. She is part of one of my New Hampshire groups. I um, I do try to come to this meeting every night, but one thing I wanted to open with is that I didn't come last night, which is very unusual for me. But the reason was I got to attend a Jerry Seinfeld concert with my entire family, which I would not have been able to do that if I was still drinking. Not only would I not want to go because I would have wanted to plan out my drinking night and they would not have wanted me to attend. So just that gift, that was just yesterday. Just the gifts that I have received in sobriety are amazing. So I am going to tell my story, start from the beginning. So I was born and raised in Maine. I had an older sister and a younger brother. My brother's 7 years younger than me. My sister's 2 years older than me. My father was an alcoholic. My mother was an alcoholic at the beginning. However, she became mentally ill. And back then we called it manic depressive, but now they call it bipolar. So my childhood was extremely dysfunctional. Um, there was, my dad, he had his own business and he worked at it, but he was constantly drinking and he would be angry. There was never any physical abuse, but it was just a lot of dysfunction. But within that dysfunction, I had a lot of love. And I had that from my maternal grandparents, and they lived in the town next to me. So I started partying and drinking. I believe it was, and I honestly don't remember the first time I had a drink. I just don't. Years ago, I tried to block out a lot of my childhood. So, but the minute I started drinking, I believe it was around 14, I drank alcoholically from the get go. I was, give me a drink, and I wanted to get drunk, and I would black out. And I didn't drink every day. I was in school and I finished school, but I got into, did a lot of things that went against my morals during those teenage years. And I just enjoyed just going out and getting completely obliterated. So I somehow muddled through high school, and I found a college in Massachusetts that I got into. And I think it was my father, it was whichever parent could function the best at the moment. My father brought me to college and just left me there. And I was enrolling in my classes. I actually met my husband on the very first day of college. So we started partying, and it was the same thing for me, just drink to get as drunk as possible, not care about my classes, and just having a hangover a lot and just not feeling well. Um, if you looked at my transcript from college, you will see that first semester, all I had was, it was like C minus and D's. It was not pretty. But something happened in that first semester of college and I did want to say there are a couple things that could trigger people, and I apologize, but it's part of my story and my journey. So I feel, and I did talk to my sponsor about sharing this, but I am going to share it. Something happened to me at the beginning of college. and I became pregnant. And it was really, really hard on me. And I knew that I wasn't capable of raising a child. And I felt my only answer was to end the pregnancy, which I did. Um, After that, I stopped drinking because of the shame. I could not, I couldn't do that again. And I just, I knew it was because I was drinking and I wasn't being careful. And, that I had to go, I went through that and did that. It just really caused a lot of shame to me. So I stopped drinking, and my boyfriend suggested I go to AA. And so I did go to an AA meeting. I was 18, and I went in, and I think it was in the church basement, dark. And all I remember was just a lot of old men. There might not have been that, but that's how I remember it. I didn't hear a word they said. I felt so uncomfortable the entire time. I just wanted to leave. And I never went back, but I didn't drink for 15 years. And that was all shame. There was no program with that. There was nothing to help me learn to have a better way of living. It was just remembering, the way I drank and what happened when I drank. So in that time, I got married. Um, my dad, who was pretty, pretty intense alcoholic, but functioning. I remember saying to him, Dad, I quit drinking. You can too. Just stop. You don't have to drink. And he just couldn't. And one day, the day after Thanksgiving in 1981, my dad committed suicide. So that's where it led him. And that was extremely traumatic. That really, really upset me. I couldn't talk about it for 2 years. Um, I I didn't really get any professional help for coping with that. I just had it inside me. But I did get married. I have two beautiful children, two daughters. My husband at the time was not, he did not drink alcoholically, but as he was an entrepreneur and had his own business and grew it more and more, and with the pressure of that, he began drinking a lot. And he did also become verbally abusive, never physically, but just verbally, where I would do whatever I could to protect my daughters from it. So it was a lot of kind of dancing around and trying to manage my life and keep the girls safe and keep things at peace, as one does when they live with an alcoholic. So fast forward to in my early 30s, we had gone to a trip. We took the girls to a trip to Disney World in Florida. And we're sitting there, and my husband said, you haven't had a drink for a long time. I think you're okay. I don't, you haven't drank. And of course, me, oh, well, okay, sure. So I didn't drink the way I started drinking again, but I did not drink the way I did as a teenager. I was able to manage it. And I don't know if it was because I had my daughters and I was responsible and wanted to be, I had to be there for my kids. But you know, I was able to somehow manage it at that time. It didn't become problematic. I was a stay-at-home mom. I did finally get a job when my late 30s at the school in town, which I've been there for 23 years, I think. So I love that. I love the job I have, and I've been very blessed to have that. I remember then my girls went to college. Um, and, I did start drinking more. And I remember thinking to myself, I remember saying this to myself, I'm only having 2 beers on a work night. So work nights, 2 beers only, but the weekends, anything went. So it was, managing it that way. And my husband was drinking more and more, and he did start drinking hard stuff, which got worse and worse. And then with the hard stuff in the house, I would here and there start drinking that. So in I'm trying to think, in 2013, we ended up separating. I found out that he had a business down in Massachusetts, and he had his own condo down there, but we lived in Maine, New Hampshire, and he would. I found out that he had a few flings down in Massachusetts, and that really didn't go over well with me. But I've forgiven him. But it we decided to separate. And one thing I realized is that I don't know if it was because of the verbal abuse, but I wasn't in love with him anymore. I'll always love him. He's the father of my kids. He's one of my best friends, but I wasn't in love with him anymore. And I knew I couldn't be married and I couldn't go back to him. So we did end up divorcing. I was living in a condo, and at the time I didn't work summers, so I was started to drink a lot, and I was on my own drinking a lot, and I started drinking in the morning too. For some stupid reason, I thought that was a good idea. So as it was getting closer for me to go back to work, I realized I couldn't stop drinking. And I decided that I was going to go to a rehab for 2 weeks, because 2 weeks was going to cure me. So I had to get a doctor's note in order to let them in without going to detox, which my doctor did sign off on that. I went to a rehab. I drove myself there and checked in for 2 weeks. And at the end of the 2 weeks, they were saying, you can't, 2 weeks is not going to do it. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I haven't had a drink in 2 weeks. I can do this. That's all I needed. I did it before. I did it for 15 years. I'm good. So I left the rehab, and I think it took about a week that I was right back. And it was actually worse than ever. I actually one night, this I've never shared with anyone, not even my sponsor. Sorry, Wendy. One night I was feeling so low that the only thing I had in the house was Benadryl. So I took all the Benadryl that I could get, and I took them all. And then I woke up a few hours later and made myself throw up. And the next day I had a friend drive me back to rehab, and I stayed there for 6 months. I was there in the program for 2 months, and then they have like a sober living at the rehab, and I stayed there for an additional 4 months, and I was able to work from there. So coming out of that, I felt like I had a good solid base. I had a sponsor. I started working the steps, but I wasn't really listening. There was something missing in me that wasn't absorbing what I should for this program. I think I was just going through the like doing things half measures. And then they say half measures, what do they say? Half measures avail us nothing. It didn't do it. And I, had the sponsor, but I stopped calling her once I went back home. I stopped going to meetings, and I started drinking again. And I said to myself, I'm not doing any hard liquor. I'm just going to do like Truly or wine. It's like that was going to make a big difference. So, and we know that's in more about alcoholism. So I hid it from my family for a while. And I know the reason I started drinking. I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm just going to back up. After that rehab, and I wasn't drinking, but I did stop calling my sponsor. I stopped going to meetings. My ex-husband needed me to come over for something, and I went to the house, and he was just a mess. And he'd been drinking, and there's alcohol everywhere. And I went in the kitchen to get him something, and there was an open container of vodka there, and I just said to myself, I'm just going to drink again. So that kind of, it's stupid, but what made my mind think that was okay. So I started drinking again, and again trying to manage it. My ex-husband ended up going to rehab, and we all helped him. He has been now sober for 6 years, but he does not do a program, and you can tell. He just stays sober, and it's funny knowing I know him so well, and I know this program would help him, but he will not do the program. But in any event, I I was drinking again, and then my daughters found out, but I was presenting myself as okay, so they didn't come down hard on me. Um, I ended up buying a condo and moving in, and I was doing okay, and then the pandemic hit, and right before the pandemic hit, my younger daughter's boyfriend committed suicide. Now, he was a drinker too, and my younger daughter was, drank heavily. Um, so that was really tough to go through, and I was there for her, but she ended up moving back to my um, ex-husband's house. So with the pandemic, she was afraid she wouldn't see me. So I sold my condo and I moved back to the house too. Um, she was drinking and I was drinking. My husband wasn't drinking. My ex-husband wasn't drinking, but we were just trying to get through everything. She ended up um, getting sober. She's been 2 years now sober. So she was sober before me, and I continued drinking. I was living in the house with them, but I continued sneaking it. So my whole thing was just my day, I'd go to work, thinking in my mind, planning out what I'm going to drink, how am I going to sneak it into the house to get it home. I was a completely isolated drinker. I stayed in my room once I got home, and I just drank. So I went through that until I believe it was like in November of 20, that's over in 24, 23, they kind of said, you can't drink anymore. You just got to stop. So I said, okay, I'll stop. I went to my doctor. I got a pill that they give you to help you not crave. Um, that ended up, I didn't like it, so I didn't take it. And I think I stayed sober for about a week. And then I really started sneaking. So they thought I was not drinking, and I was drinking. And they caught on pretty fast. And I lied. Just completely lied to them that I wasn't drinking. And I'm just so ashamed of that. And I did make amends to them for that because I really felt bad about that. But in February 7th, 2024, my ex-husband said, the decision you have a decision. You get out now or you stop drinking. And I said, all right, I'll stop drinking. And he went up to my room with me, and I showed him where everything was, but I didn't show him where one thing was, and he found it. So everything got dumped out. So I mean, not that you need to prep, but I came home from work thinking, okay, I got all my stash. I'm good to go for the night, to nothing. You're not drinking anymore, Alicia. And I was scared. I was terrified. How am I going to get through the night without drinking? How am I going to get through this? I really was scared. So I think my daughter there were meetings she went to, and I started going to her meetings. And then I was looking for other online meetings, and I found this one, and I love the name, and I've heard that before, A New Spiritual Family. And I needed something in my life. I needed something to stop me on that roller coaster of hell that I kept jumping back on. So I did start going to this meeting. I pretty early on, and I was going to the my New Hampshire meetings pretty religiously. There were two of them that I went to, and one of them I did ask was my sponsor, Wendy. She's here tonight. Thank you, Wendy. And I asked if, I believe it was early March, I asked her to be my sponsor. It could have been the end of February, but she said yes. And she started me working, and I have so much homework from her, and I love it. I I do everything she says because I want her sobriety. I want to I want to learn what I need to learn, and so I have peace in my life, and I don't have to go back to that madness. Um, One of the big things that really, I think, helped it take away that craving of alcohol was connecting with my higher power, which I've always been very spiritual, but I've never really been directly trying to talk to my higher power. And that's something I got, through my sponsor and this meeting, realizing what I needed to do. I remember very early on when Miss Emily said, I get on my knees morning and night, and that's what I did. And I've been doing it ever since. Morning and night, I do my prayers, and sometimes more if need be. But I humble myself because I have to remember that I'm not the one running this anymore, because I get myself in trouble, and I can't drink. I just can't drink. It's, I know I'm an alcoholic. I know that putting alcohol in my body starts a whole chain of bad events that's really hard to stop. And working what this program tells you, it makes it a lot easier and more beautiful to live life. Like I shared at the beginning, I got to go to that Jerry Seinfeld concert. I got to go to Chicago with my daughter and my two granddaughters for a week. That never would have happened if I was drinking. I got to meet a beautiful member of this family when I was in Chicago, which was just beautiful, just incredible. Um, I I go to work. I love my job, and I love it even more now with a clear head. I don't have a hangover in the mornings. That is a super bonus. I don't have to worry in the middle of the night if somebody needed me. I can be there for them. I am, they can call me any time of the day or night. I can be there. I can get in a car and drive. Let's see what else I wanted to say. I know that somebody in this meeting, I think, said recovery is a journey, not a destination. And that's so true. I want to continually be teachable. I did work all the steps once, and I know I can do a much better time, and I'm on round two with my sponsor. And I plan on doing them for the rest of my life. My sponsor has given me something that might take me a year to finish, but I'm going to do it. And I'll tell you, it's an incredible assignment that has already helped me to, and it's just a simple thing I can do here and there, but it, it gives me, it gives me the ability to learn about myself more, that, I can think about things that I've done and start to understand why, or or yeah, why things happen. I do realize, and this is through my sponsor, working with her, I did have a lot of fear in my life, and I still do. I have fear in my life, but much it's not nearly as intense as it was. um it's just this program is just on it's just a program that does work. And anybody that's new, I don't know if Leah's still here, but it is something that if you are willing to open your mind and be honest, you can you can stop drinking and have serenity and peace in your life. Um, and I think that's all I have. So I'm going to wrap it up with that. I thank everyone in this family and my other family. I know I had some people that came in from my New Hampshire family, and I thank you so much. I'm so grateful, and I love you all.